The gavel tap was soft, yet the room reacted as if glass had found hairline cracks. Fluorescent panels hummed. Rain stitched the high windows like wire. Judge Naomi Adler looked up from the docket, breath catching mid-step. "It's her," she said. Not for the microphones, just for the small pocket of air between bench and bench. Paper stopped whispering. Evelyn Brooks sat straight, hands folded on a plain leather clutch scuffed pale along the edges. The zipper tab was nicked, a crescent of missing finish catching light. She adjusted the edge of a black scarf, squared the corners, then stilled them with one finger, as if aligning a frame. Across the aisle, Lena Brooks breathed through her mouth, an old habit from the dentist chair. Her eyes cut sideways toward Trent Collins. He tipped back in his chair and let his wrist turn so the watch face flashed. The clerk cleared her throat. "Case number—" The microphone clipped the first syllable and steadied. At the petitioner's table, an attorney in a red tie stacked exhibits by weight rather than number. At the respondent's table, Ava Chen laid out files in quiet columns, bank logs, transcripts, photos with dates in a gray square font. Evelyn's left hand rested on the clutch, right hand on her knee. The pose looked ordinary, the way one waits through a long light. Adler kept looking. Recognition moved across her face in a pattern that had nothing to do with today's pleadings. She removed her glasses, pinched the bridge of her nose, then set the frames down and touched one temple with a thumb, as though measuring a memory. Shoes made careful decisions on the floor. Trent leaned toward Lena until the fabric at his shoulder creased. "What is that about?" he said without moving his lips. The words were not meant to travel. They traveled anyway. Lena shrugged, palms open, as if to say, "Let it end quickly. Let there be no surprises." Adler glanced toward the tables, then back to Evelyn. "We'll proceed," she said, but the cadence softened, as if the sentence had found foam. Ava slid the top report 2 inches forward, aligning it with the file's edge. She didn't look at Evelyn. It signaled readiness. Some rooms hold their breath without knowing why. In the catalog of family drama stories, a silence can be halftime rather than endgame. No one here knew why the judge's voice had found that first tremor. Not yet. The red-tied attorney began with dates and the flat verbs of petitions. He spoke of influence and sudden changes and signatures hurried by worry. He did not look toward the bench when he used the word incapacity. Evelyn's breathing settled into the slow rhythm she used for watering African violets. Steady pour, move the stream, avoid the leaves. Her gaze held the bench. She did not speak. "Counsel," Adler said, "keep your voice with me." The lawyer lowered his volume a shade, as if dimming a lamp. Adler nodded for the clerk to continue, case number again. A clean read. "Proceed," the judge said a second time, and this time the word had spine. Evelyn pressed her fingertips together until the knuckles looked like pearls under skin, then she let them separate. Leather whispered against wool as the purse shifted a fraction. She watched the judge's eyes and waited for the calendar to catch up to the inevitable. If there was a story stitched inside that recognition, it would surface later, when the record allowed. For now, the room behaved. The rules held. Nobody here, not at counsel's tables, not in the gallery, knew the hinge that would swing them backward before it swung them forward. That hinge was small, a kitchen, an October evening, steam ghosting a window above a double sink, the scent of chicken and dumplings moving down a narrow hall, a chair worn dark by the weight of a husband's elbows, an embroidered cloth brought from a drawer because guests were coming. A daughter in the doorway with brochures that looked cheerful in a way that made the wall. What followed would belong to the quiet corner of family revenge stories, the kind measured in paperwork and boundaries, not raised voices. But for now, Adler set her glasses back on and steadied the pen in her hand. "Exhibits?" she asked. Ava raised a palm to signal yes, and the red-tied attorney did the same. The clerk stood, ready to mark. The gavel didn't fall again. It didn't need to. The room had already learned how to hold its breath. Before the first exhibit number was spoken, Evelyn's eyes flicked, just once, to the ceiling lights. Panels buzzed. Rain stitched the windows. Outside, sirens grazed the block and faded slowly. The day, like a page, waited to be turned. Steam scribbled on the kitchen window and erased itself in loops. Rain that had stitched courthouse glass now softened the square of light over Walter's tile. The pot settled when Evelyn cut the flame. Dumplings eased back into broth. The wooden spoon fit the notch her thumb had made over years, embroidered cloth, bowls with a fine map of crazing, forks straight. Walter's chair pulled in and squared. The latch clicked. The screen door bumped. "Mom," Lena called, letting the spring do the closing. Brochures rode her forearm. Trent came behind, remote in hand. "I kept it warm," Evelyn said. She slid the pot to a cool ring. Steam lifted and thinned. Trent pressed power. A game show burst open. He dropped into Walter's chair as if he had rehearsed the angle. Lena stood without sitting, perched near a chair like a commuter measuring a bus. She squared the brochure corners. "We need to talk." Her eyes stayed on the paper. Evelyn smoothed the cloth. Thread caught and released. "These are good places," Lena said, fanning pages, paths and ponds, a pool with a lift, a calendar with cheerful fonts. "Safe, company, they handle meals." "You'd have more to do." Trent ticked the volume higher by 1 bar. His heel began to swing. "This house is a lot," Lena said. "Too big for you alone. You're always fixing things. It doesn't make sense." Trent let his eyes run the room like a measuring wheel. "How many square feet?" The question went to the ceiling. He crossed an ankle and let the shoe rock. Evelyn ladled 3 bowls. She set one for Lena. She set one where Walter's had been, then moved it to the opposite chair. The third stayed by her place. "Not hungry," Trent said. He scraped the remote along the arm as if sanding it. The doorbell rang. Trent stayed seated. Lena half-turned, then glanced at the TV. Evelyn stepped to the entry. 2 men stood on the mat, gray suit and camera bag. "Appraisal," the first said, eyes sliding past her shoulder. "We'll be quick." He wiped shoes without waiting. "We didn't," Evelyn began. "Scheduled it," Trent called. "Timer's running." They moved through like weather. The tape hissed, snapped, reeled in. The camera blinked at hallway, living room, the kitchen tile Walter had laid on a Sunday. "Old piping," the leader said at the sink. He tapped the faucet like a nurse finding a vein. Tiles dated, counters too. Evelyn followed at a distance and touched surfaces after they passed. 2 fingers on the wall by the phone desk. The switch plate with a hairline crack. The bedroom door Walter had planed when it swelled. In the kitchen, the appraiser measured the stove sink run. "Triangle's tight," he told his camera. "Remodel would fix it." Trent stepped into the doorway and nodded. "Open this up. Lose that wall." Evelyn looked at the wall. Pencil marks hid under paint, Lena's height at 8, 9, 10. They photographed the dining room. The embroidered cloth became an object in a listing. Frames on the wall were caught in a sweep. "These should come down," Trent said. "Fresh start." The bell sounded again. A 3rd man arrived with a folder. He gave a full name and a firm. He held the folder like a menu. "Just a couple signatures to move the transfer. Simple." "Transfer," Evelyn said. "Keep title in family," he said, smiling. "Less friction. You remain priority. They'll handle upkeep. Everyone wins." Evelyn pulled a chair and sat. The floorboard under it gave the long note she knew. The folder landed on embroidery. Tabs peaked like flags. Halfway down the first page, a clause waited in plain font, a sentence about capacity. The man tapped near it. "Standard. Protects you." Studio applause rose and fell from the living room. Lena turned a bracelet. "It's just paperwork. We'll do the heavy lifting. You don't like forms." She brushed a crumb that wasn't there. Trent's voice stayed even. "Also that stove thing last week," he said to the appraiser. "Gas left on." Evelyn looked at the knobs. All pointed home. She turned 1-2 clicks and back. No smell drifted. The gray suit made a note. The lawyer, he hadn't said the word, the folder had, cleared his throat. "We can notarize tonight," he said. "My notary travels." Evelyn shut the flame and set the lid down with a small kiss. The bowls cooled untouched. Lena opened the hallway cabinet. The green velvet box lay where it always had under a tea towel. She took it to the table and flipped it open. The ring sat in its groove. The thin chain lay in a loop. "Safer in a safe deposit," she said. The box slid into her purse. The zipper finished with a firm line. Evelyn started to reach. Her hand stopped halfway. She let her fingers curl and find the cloth. The appraisers finished their loop and wiped soles at the mat. The lawyer nudged the pen closer, uncapped, the tip pointing at a line. On TV, a cartoon credit rolled. Trent hit mute. He unmuted for the commercial. "Best to sign before the rate lock expires," the lawyer said. "Markets move." Evelyn gathered the bowls, though no one had eaten. The ladle tapped a hollow sound. She carried them to the sink, ran water until it turned hot, and then turned it off. "I'll think," she said, setting the bowls aside. "Not much to think," Trent said, checking his watch. "We're doing this." The visitors left. Lena remained by the sideboard. Her hand stayed on the purse strap. "It's for the best," she said to the room. Evelyn walked down the hall to the phone desk. The top drawer caught at an inch. She lifted and pulled. Wood scraped and then gave. Envelopes. Receipts with paid stamps. A rubber band turned to amber string. Under that, a spiral notebook with a bent corner. She lifted the notebook. Beneath it, a small key lay taped to a magazine page, the tape browned and stiff. The page showed a couple in front of a yellow bungalow. Someone, Walter, had circled the gutter line in pen. Evelyn slid the drawer shut until it caught. She pressed with the heel of her hand to seat it. Rain thickened and came at an angle. The brochures, left in a spread, curled at the edges. A van smiled from one. A garden bed on another bore neat labels. Evelyn turned off the stove light. Steam fingerprinted the window and cleared enough to show a neighbor's porch lamp. Up the hall, the desk waited, stubborn drawer, shallow cubby, a key no one remembered. The house held its line the way a seam holds under stress. Down the hall, the TV asked a contestant to guess a number. Pipes ticked as they cooled. Evelyn touched the back of Walter's chair with 2 fingers. She did not move it. She did not move the bowls. She did not answer the brochures. Night would come. The drawer would still catch. The key would still be taped to a picture. And steam would still loop and erase itself until she lifted the lid again. Rain thinned into a steady metronome on the eaves. In the hall, a desk lamp printed yellow across the stubborn top drawer. Evelyn lifted, tugged, and felt the wood give. Envelopes, rubber bands gone amber, a spiral notebook with a dog-eared corner. Beneath it, brittle tape pinning a small brass key to a magazine page where a gutter line was circled in blue. She eased the key free with a butter knife. The tape snapped and curled. She turned the key between fingers, teeth catching light, then crossed to the lowest shelf where Walter kept tax folders. Behind the manuals, a flat tin box waited with a lock that matched. The key turned with a muffled click. Inside lay a narrow binder wrapped in brown paper, twine knotted in a square. Walter had tucked a card under the twine, a grocery list on one side, a date on the other. She loosened the knot and smoothed the paper open. The binder's cover was brushed aluminum. Hinges whispered. Plastic sleeves showed the first tab. Last Will and Testament. A notary stamp sat blunt and certain, ink feathered at the edges, county name familiar. The first page carried Walter's full name. Under a clause, her own. She traced the pen stroke that paused where his signature always paused. A second tab, Schedule of Assets. Columns walked down the page. Property, accounts, equity, rentals. Each line had a date and a masked number. The beneficiary box read, Evelyn Brooks, Sole. Farther back, a page bore a registered agent's seal. When she lifted it, the paper exhaled dry air. She turned to the deeds. The first was the house she stood in. The second carried a Pearl District address. A floor plan showed elevator core and a stack of 2 bedrooms. Next to it, the management agreement. The company logo matched envelopes that came monthly. A paragraph stated that collections and disbursements would clear on the first business day into an account ending in digits she recognized. A pocket held bank statements. Deposits landed with machine regularity. Rents from 5 units, then a 6th. Interest, dividends. In Walter's slanted block, roll into ladder. Call Ava Retrust. Avoid changes until refi matures. Balances stepped upward like careful stairs. She turned the page. The equity section used a heavier stock. Cascade Logistics, Inc., common shares. A certificate with Walter's name and a transfer on death instruction. A letter from Investor Relations welcoming a holder of record. Another on voting thresholds, suggesting a call with the corporate secretary. A yellow sticky flagged a line. HR, Madison Pike, direct, with a number flattened by time. In the last sleeve, a small envelope in Walter's hand. She slid the letter free. The lines marched in even steps. He wrote about buying the Pearl building when no one wanted the block, about arranging things so she would never trade time for heat or groceries, about keeping ownership quiet so noise wouldn't find them. A sentence stood alone. Use this to protect yourself, and to teach, not to bruise. He noted Trent's appetite and how appetite looks like care until it asks for signatures. He ended with his name written slowly, then a postscript. Call Ava if trouble comes, and keep Madison Pike's number. Remember, mercy travels farther than noise. He listed account numbers plainly and noted a safe deposit key in the tin for emergencies. Keep the folder visible. She returned the letter to its sleeve. The neighbor's porch light swung across the desk as a car turned the corner. Rain kept time. She pulled the blotter closer and built stacks. Left, deed for the Pearl building. On top, the management agreement and 2 statements showing rents posting. Right, the Cascade certificate with investor letters. The sticky angled so the name and number stayed visible without covering the seal. Above them, Walter's will, notary in the upper right. She clipped each stack and slid a plain sheet over the top of every group like a lid. From a plastic sleeve of cards, she found Ava Chen. She set the card as a tab on the right-hand stack. From the file crate, she pulled a manila folder and printed in block letters. Monday. Living room. She carried the folder to the kitchen island, the house's usual landing spot for mail. Back at the desk, she wiped the surface with 2 slow passes, lifted the lamp, and cleaned the ring of dust that gathered under the base. The top read as one tone. On the bookshelf, 3-ring binders leaned. She squared them. The tin went back behind the manuals with a fresh strip of tape across the lip. The small brass key dropped into a ceramic dish with stamps and safety pins. The dish answered with a single click. In the hallway, family frames ran in 2 rows. Some glass carried a faint kitchen fog. She cleared a square with the corner of a cloth. A toddler in a snowsuit looked back. In the next room, a chair kept the shape of 2 old elbows. She laid the manila folder flat on the dining table, then moved it to the coffee table where it would be seen without being announced. She aligned its edge with the table seam. The seam ran true. The folder obeyed. She took photocopies of the Pearl deed and the management agreement. The feeder pulled each page once. Originals returned to their stack. Copies slid into a second folder labeled, Leave Here. At the phone, she keyed Ava's office line and listened to voicemail. She didn't speak. She hung up, typed an email titled Monday Availability, and wrote 5 exact sentences: day, time window, purpose, address, elevator code. Send clicked and went away. On a coil-bound pad, she made a small list. Print shop if more copies. Notary if needed. Bank hours. Boxes beside each, empty for now. At the sink, the bowls from earlier waited. Warm water. Soap. Rack. Steam gave way to air. She folded the embroidered cloth and returned it to the drawer between Sundays. The ladle hung bowl down on its hook. Down the hall, she opened Lena's old room. The bed held a tight quilt. In the closet, a spare blanket, a shoebox with yearbooks. She closed the door and set a palm against the wood, then took her hand away. Back in the office, the binder closed with a shallow sigh. Brown paper wrapped it again. Twine circled and tied. The knot held. She set the bundle on the lowest shelf behind the manuals again, but not as far back. Midnight passed the windows. The streetlight ringed and thinned. She clicked off lights room by room, leaving the living room last. Front bolt, back lock, set. She placed the manila folder on the coffee table corner nearest the hall so the first person in would see it and have a reason to sit. When she sat, hands rested parallel on her knees. The wall made a small sound where old pipes adjust. She watched droplets chase one another on the glass and reset their lines when they met. Morning would arrive on schedule. Trucks keep time. Elevators wait at lobbies. Tables hold paper until paper is done. The living room learned the folder's weight and did not resist it. Rain stepped back a measure. Night took its time. Out on the street, a delivery van downshifted and went. The stove clock picked a minute and kept it. She folded the dish towel on the oven handle and smoothed the edge flat. On the coffee table, the folder sat square under the lamp. She turned the lamp off. In first light, a reverse beep, steady, patient, would find the block. A truck would nose the curb. And the manila tab, plain as a door label, would be waiting where she had put it. Reverse beeps stitched the morning. A white truck took the curb, hazards blinking. Evelyn had rolled the rug edge under so boots wouldn't catch. On the coffee table, the manila folder sat square to the seam. She stood in the doorway where hall met living room and let the house breathe once before the knock. 2 taps. She opened. "Collins, move," the driver said through a gray hoodie, clipboard angled to keep the rain off. Behind him, 2 movers lifted padded blankets. Their dolly's rubber nose was taped neat. "In here," Evelyn said, not far enough to yield the room. She stepped aside so that anyone entering saw the folder first. Lena came fast up the walk, hair wet at the ends, a purse high on her shoulder. Trent followed, keys twirling until they clicked the jam. "Let's make it efficient," he told the crew. "Dining set, the china cabinet, the framed pictures. Wrap it tight." "Nothing leaves," Evelyn said. Trent looked past her to the clipboard. "We're on a schedule," he told the driver, skipping the one who owned the threshold. "Clock's running." The driver looked at the folder's tab. "Good movers read houses." He read this one. "We need the owner's sign-off," he said softly. "Owner is here," Trent said, thumb to chest. Evelyn slid the folder an inch and opened it. Paper side. On top, a copy of a management agreement and 2 neat bank statements. Deposits on the first, rent, Unit 3B, rent, Unit 4A, clearing into an account ending in familiar digits. Next to them, a deed with a Pearl District address, serif letters held steady. Lena's gaze caught on the address. Her hand rose halfway, hovered, then lowered to the purse strap. "These guys move what we tell them," Trent said, voice acquiring edges. "You'll want the top line," Evelyn said to the room rather than a man. The driver leaned in without touching. "Owner of record," he read, voice leveling. He read the name. He looked at Evelyn, at Trent, back to the page, as if letters might change when stared at hard enough. "Forgery," Trent said, air short. "Load the truck." No one moved. A drip from a coat hem pooled and held its circle. Evelyn flipped once more. Sticky and block letters flagged a human resources contact. The Cascade Logistics certificate sat under it, shareholder name printed clear. She didn't lift it high. She let it occupy the table like a brick in a pocket. "You've been living in my building," she said. Lena shifted weight, heel to toe and back. "We pay every month," she said. Factual, a sentence shaped like a receipt. "Through a management company," Evelyn said. "Who sends it here?" Trent reached for the folder. She set her hand on its edge. He stopped. Moving paper meant touching her. He hadn't planned for touch. He smiled without warmth. "We'll contest," he said. "Meanwhile..." "Nothing leaves," Evelyn said. Outside, a siren scraped the block and faded. The driver tipped his chin at the crew. They reversed the dolly, blankets folding like wings, and waited on the porch. Trent lifted the remote, pressed power, discovered the television already off, set the remote down hard enough to bounce it once. 30 days, he said at last. We can be out in 30. From that address, Evelyn said, tapping the deed with a fingertip. Then to Lena. Your key works until the 1st. Lena opened her mouth, then closed it. She set her purse on the table. The zipper eased open under her palm. A white envelope showed a clinic logo in gray. She slid the purse closer and pinched the zipper shut. We aren't leaving, Trent said, breaking the sentence on the last word. Evelyn drew a single sheet forward. A typed notice, blanks empty, law named in the header. She didn't fill it. She let paper do the part that belonged to paper. Call the manager, Trent said to Lena. Tell him to change the date. Lena did not call. She watched the deed. In its diagram, dark elevator cores stacked like a spine. At the threshold, a puddle mapped the porch slats. The truck idled. Steam uncurled from the movers' jackets. Trent found his lawyer's card and laid it atop the folder as if paper could cancel paper. We'll get an injunction, he said. You bring what you like, Evelyn said, returning the card to his palm as neatly as passing salt. Nothing leaves. He tried a different door. You left the gas on last week, he said. You can't manage this place alone. Evelyn turned a burner 2 clicks and back. The steel answered with the sober sound of on and off. She lifted the lid on last night's pot as if a kitchen could testify. The bell rang again. The building manager from across the river stood on the porch, collar darkening under the rain. You called? He asked, gaze undecided. Meet the crew, Evelyn said. They don't move what shouldn't move. He stepped inside, saw the folder, read enough to adjust his shoulders. To Trent, we can schedule a clean-out with proper notice. He made it sound helpful. We're taking what's ours, Trent said. The manager looked at Evelyn. She didn't nod. She didn't speak. He understood anyway and set himself a half step farther from Trent. Quick mid-story note, if you're into family drama stories and the quieter edge of family revenge stories, follow Crimson Heirs so you don't miss the next turn. Back to it. A quiet fell that wasn't empty. Rain thinned. The refrigerator clicked. Lena pressed her palm flat on the purse. The envelope hid again. Her other hand found the edge of the table and held, as if furniture could lend balance. Here's how it goes, Trent said, volume tuned for hallways. We pack, we leave. Later, we argue about paper. Evelyn looked from the stove clock to a calendar by the phone. Squares waited like empty lots. You have 30 days, she said. Start with looking. He laughed once, a sound cheaper than silence. And if we don't? You'll get it in writing, she said, lifting the notice a breath and setting it down. He ran a hand over his hair and found nothing to fix. We'll be back with counsel, he told the heir. He nodded at the movers, who weren't his. At the manager, who wasn't coming closer. At Lena, who did not return nods now that nods meant agreement. On the porch, the driver signed his own clipboard and tore off a sheet no one had ordered. He handed it to Evelyn, a receipt for work not done. The orange blinkers went dark. The truck eased away, reverse beeps traded for a low gear. Inside, Trent pocketed his keys with a snap and missed the knob by an inch, then caught it. Weather pushed once at the door before it shut. The manager lingered. We'll expect notice, he said to the right person this time. You will, Evelyn said. He left, pulling the door with 2 fingers so the latch closed like a book. Lena stayed where she was. Her gaze moved over the table, deed, statements, sticky with a name, and came back to Evelyn's hands. She reached out and aligned the sticky with the page edge. It squared. She let her fingers rest there 1 heartbeat longer than necessary, then folded her arms as if to keep her hands from wrong choices. the house resumed itself. Dolly tracks dried to faint commas. The rug lay flat. In the hallway cabinet, a towel remembered its seam. Evelyn closed the folder. She didn't hug it. She didn't shelve it. She placed it on the hall table where keys usually sleep, where anyone leaving has to pass it and see leaving for what it is. From outside, a delivery van downshifted and went. The rain drew a finer line. Light opened a little on the dining chairs. "Tea?" Evelyn asked. A word that could be an offer or a ledger. Lena nodded. She turned the tap, let water find heat, warmed 2 mugs, poured. She passed one across without touching fingers. They stood with cups in their hands and watched steam go straight up. The stove ticked as metal cooled. In the quiet, the house held its shape and the folder held its place, and 30 days found their first hour and began. Steam rose from the kettle in a narrow column. The manila folder stayed at the coffee table's corner, square to the seam. Evelyn set 2 mugs apart by the width of her palm and tapped the switch with 1 knuckle. The house settled into the quiet after the truck left. Lena stood by the window, purse strap cutting a line across her shoulder. Rain thinned on the maple. She slid a brochure under a magazine and smoothed the edge. A path circled a pond in cheerful blue. Smiling seniors held pickleball paddles. A calendar grid promised Tuesday bingo. "I'll make up the guest room," Evelyn said. She pulled sheets from the hall closet, shook one, and wrapped the mattress with corners like envelopes. The old quilt went on top. A lamp found amber. On the nightstand, a glass of water met a coaster. She smoothed the sheet with the back of her hand until the weave lay flat, then lifted the pillow to fluff once, letting feathers settle like silt in a jar. Lena stayed in the doorway. Her purse zipper whispered as she slid her hand inside. For a second, a clinic logo and a grainy rectangle flashed, then vanished. Her palm settled as if warmth could hold a picture. In the kitchen, the kettle clicked off. Evelyn poured. Steam clouded her glasses. She folded them and set them on a saucer. She carried 1 mug to Lena without touching fingers. "Careful," she said. "Hot." "Thanks." Lena held the mug with both hands, not drinking. Their reflections met and shared an outline on the window's surface. Back at the coffee table, the folder waited. Evelyn lifted the top flap and set a velvet box on the embroidery she had moved from the dining room. She opened it. The ring sat in its groove. The chain nested in a soft circle. She left the box and closed the folder like a quiet gate. "Can I stay here tonight?" Lena asked. Evelyn nodded once. She gestured toward the open door with 2 fingers and moved the other mug to the far coaster so elbows wouldn't brush. 2 places, 2 distances. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. The wall clock took a minute. The purse lay between them like a border. A white corner pressed against the zipper teeth. Lena slid it deeper. Her other hand squared the folder with the table seam. Evelyn brought a pencil from the phone desk and 1 plain sheet. She wrote 3 short lines and set the pencil midway. No underlines, no bold. Lena read, "I'm sorry for what I did." Then, "No more letting anyone speak for me." Then, "I respect the boundaries of this house." Her fingers hovered, returned, and took it. The graphite left a faint sheen where the loops closed. She paused over the word boundaries, pressed harder, then lightened through house. "You can write them in your own hand," Evelyn said. "It holds better." Lena wrote, left-handed, letters tall and careful. She dated the corner and slid the paper an inch toward Evelyn, not all the way. The phone buzzed face down. The vibration made a neat double tap against the wood. Evelyn flipped it over. A name filled the bar, shrank, filled again. 3 missed calls, then 4. She set the phone face down and covered it with the mover's blank receipt. Evelyn wiped the kettle ring and folded the cloth to a clean edge. She returned to the couch and kept her eyes on the sheet with the 3 lines. Lena spoke without looking up. "He says I don't have to think. He already did the thinking." Evelyn gathered the day's papers. Management agreement, deed, statements, and kept the plain sheet on top with the pencil across it like a rail. The phone buzzed again, then rang. A measured tone ran its course. A voicemail flag appeared. A text arrived. Be there in 20, unlock, stop the nonsense. Another, answer. Another came with a photo of a locked door and a timestamp, as if proof could be borrowed from pixels. Evelyn muted the phone and slid it into the drawer by the phone desk. The drawer closed with a tidy catch. Night climbed the window. The street lamp poured coins into the maple leaves. Evelyn stood and gestured toward the hall. The guest room held its amber circle. She turned down the quilt a book's width and set a spare pillow on its long edge. Bathroom, second shelf, she said. Okay. Lena set her purse on the chair and kept a finger hooked under the strap until it stopped swinging. Thanks. Evelyn did not step inside. She returned the room by staying at the threshold. Back in the kitchen, she rinsed the mugs, dried them, and put the velvet box back in the folder. Paper closed over it like a sealed envelope. She lifted the house phone and called the number on Ava's card. The greeting offered a tone. Morning, please. Documentation review, and I may need a protective order, she said. Name, address, time window. She hung up and placed the handset with care. She scanned Lena's handwritten page. She slipped the original into a clear sleeve and labeled the copy with a neat 1. The sleeve slid into the folder next to the statements. A sticky noted. Witness. Self. Her cell screen lit in the drawer. A voicemail transcript began. Long sentence, short sentence, promise, threat, promise again. She forwarded it to her email and tagged it archive. She straightened a family frame. Snow crusted on the child's boot. The coil-bound pad came back to her lap. She wrote 3 bullets. Bank, notary, HR. Under HR, she printed a name from a yellow sticky and a phone number that still fit the hand. From the guest room, floorboards spoke once. Tap water ran. Evelyn placed the pad in the folder and left the pencil with it. She lay on the couch with a folded quilt and took first watch. When a truck hissed at the corner, she checked that the folder remained square. It did. Dawn arrived as a pale rectangle on the ceiling. The phone in the drawer gave a discreet tick at the top of the hour. Evelyn silenced it and saw a missed call from the building office across the river. She called back. He's in the lobby, the manager said. His words sounded like someone standing a half step inside a door. He says he has a right to come up. He's pacing. Keep him there, Evelyn said. We'll be down in 10. She texted the number on Ava's card. Lobby now. The reply came in under a minute. Speaker on. Keep it simple. Lena stood at the bedroom doorway, hair clipped up, face pale under warm light. Her hand rested on the frame. I'll go with you, she said. Have tea first, Evelyn said. They drank 2 quick sips at the counter. Steam ghosted the window and left no writing this time. Evelyn slid the coil pad into the folder and tucked the velvet box deep. Keys entered her coat. She chose flat shoes and tightened the knot twice. At the door, Lena paused, one palm on her middle, measuring the trip. Evelyn opened the deadbolt and swung the door so the chain would not chatter. In the hallway, white lights hummed. The elevator glowed at the end. Evelyn pressed the button. The arrow lit. The doors parted like a practiced breath. They stepped in. The car smelled of lemon and mop. Evelyn pressed L. She unmuted her phone and opened the thread. A dot moved. A text arrived. I'm waiting. She typed 3 words. We're coming down. She tapped speaker, placed the phone in her coat pocket, microphone up, as instructed. The car started down. Somewhere below, shoes clicked on stone. The folder held its weight against her side. It was not meant to feel light. If you follow family drama stories and the quieter edge of family revenge stories, follow Crimson Heirs so you don't miss the turn, the narrator in Evelyn's head might have said. The car said nothing, only hum. Ready? Evelyn asked. Lena nodded and lifted her chin a degree. The door slowed. Light widened from line to frame. A lobby opened like a held breath let go. They stepped forward together. The morning took its next step. The elevator doors parted, drawing a rectangle of pale light across the lobby's stone. Camera domes kept their red pinpricks. Evelyn stepped out with the folder flat to her side, phone in her coat pocket on speaker. Lena stayed a half step back, fingers finding the counter's edge. Trent paced the seam where rug met tile. Keys circled a finger, clicked, circled again. He looked up only when the chime died. The building manager lifted a hand, then smoothed his name badge. "Down," Trent said, pointing at the elevator as if it could change its mind. "We're going up." "Lobby," Evelyn said. She placed the folder on the counter and squared it to the edge. "You wanted a log," the manager said, pulling a form. Pen to paper. Time. Location. Ava's voice came thin, but clear from the pocket. "This is Attorney Chen on speaker. Public lobby. Keep space. No one touches anyone." Trent spread his fingers on the counter, as if testing thickness. "I'm going upstairs to see my wife." "She isn't alone," Evelyn said. He flicked his keys into his palm. "She lives there. I live there." "Entry requires consent," the manager said. "We keep you here without it." Trent pointed at the nearest camera. "Record. She's blocking me." "We are recording," the manager said. "Evelyn," Ava said, "open the folder enough to show the first page to the manager. No originals leave your hand." Evelyn rolled the cover back just enough. Serif letters under lobby light read, "Owner of record," beside her name. The manager leaned without shadowing and nodded. "Owner," he said for his log and underlined the word. Trent stepped around the counter's end. The manager shifted a calf width to fill the opening. "We're not going to crowd," he said. "Move," Trent said. "We're not going to crowd," the manager repeated, setting the sentence like furniture. Lena tipped her chin. "I'll talk here," she said, not moving. "For the record," Ava said, "Ms. Brooks chooses to remain in a common area. She is not inviting anyone to the unit." Trent's eyes went from Lena's hand to the elevator, then to the folder. He jammed his hands into his pockets until the fabric bloused. Evelyn let the management agreement sit beside the deed. The paragraph on collections and disbursements kept to its corner. The manager recognized the agent logo and wrote agreement on file in the margin. "Counsel," Ava said to the room. "My client can request trespass enforcement if needed. We're not there yet. We state boundaries." Trent leaned close, as if breath could change type. "You think paper makes that yours? Fraud." "Talk to your lawyer," Evelyn said. She did not draw the papers nearer or push them away. A resident in a bright jacket slowed near the mailboxes, assessed the air, and chose the stairs. The door thumped shut. "Manager," Ava said. "Initial the incident log and pull camera from 5 minutes before entry to 5 after. Save under today's date. Preservation letter to follow." The manager initialed. Trent flattened his hands, slid them back, and left 2 damp lines from rain. "She's keeping me from my wife," he said to the camera. "You hear that?" "You can leave a message," Lena said to the counter wood grain. She didn't take out her phone. "Call upstairs and tell her I'm coming," Trent told the desk. "We don't force entry," the manager said. He lifted the phone and set it back. The cradle met without sound. "We don't deliver threats." The call shifted. The pocket speaker popped. Ava again. "Forward last night's messages and voicemail. I'm filing the notice this morning." Evelyn pulled the coil pad from the folder and wrote 4 short lines. Footage, log, rent letters, message bundle. She boxed each. "This is ridiculous," Trent said to the room, because the room could not answer. "She plays queen because her name's on a page." Evelyn pressed a yellow sticky onto the folder, a name and number. She tapped speaker, then dialed. "Cascade Logistics, Human Resources," a voice said. "Evelyn Brooks," she answered. "Shareholder of record. What is your code of conduct for employee behavior toward building owners and managers? We're in a lobby. The employee is present." Trent's jaw stopped its small motions. His shoulders dropped a notch. "Zero tolerance for harassment," the voice said. "Send an incident summary. We'll open a file." "The building manager has begun a log," Evelyn said. "You'll receive timestamps and a link to recorded footage." "Email address," the voice said, then spelled it. It matched the sticky. She repeated it back and ended the call. "I'll CC HR on the notice," Ava said. "Mr. Collins, any further appearance like this goes to the court's picture. Choose your next steps with care." Trent dragged a hand over his mouth. He looked for a pocket he had just used, found it, shoved his keys deep enough to make the fabric jump. "See you in court," he said to the exit sign, and hit the door with a palm more than a push. The glass hummed and settled. Wind moved once before the door sealed. The runner returned from the stairs and decided to stretch by the mailboxes. The lobby counted breaths. The manager copied the incident form, handed the warm sheet over, and stapled his copy to a board. "For you," he said. Lena scrolled through last night's thread, timestamps in a clean vertical. She forwarded the chain to Ava's address and added lobby to the subject line. Sent flashed and disappeared. Evelyn opened voicemail, saved 2 recordings to email, photographed the wall clock and the desk display for time anchors, and dropped the images into a folder named Morning. "Anything else?" the manager asked, pleased with questions that had rules. "Keep the footage," Evelyn said. "We'll bring a drive if needed." "Hold," he wrote in small capitals on the log's corner. The elevator breathed open and closed. The building settled back into itself. Evelyn's phone vibrated. A court notification had landed. Case number, hearing set, a date. She read it twice, showed it to the manager for the file, to Lena for her calendar. Lena entered an alert and checked that it saved. Ava texted, "Filing done. We're ready." Evelyn placed the folder flat and eased out an exhibit list. Tidy letters filled lines, texts, timestamps, voicemail transcripts, deed, management agreement, rent statements, 2 years, lobby log, camera footage, HR call notes. She numbered each the way a judge would read first. "Want me to witness that?" the manager asked, sliding over a pen. "Sign here," she said, marking a line for witness/ID. He printed his name and date. The lobby clock ticked forward. Outside, a truck exhaled and rolled away. Lena stood a fraction taller. "What now?" "Breakfast," Evelyn said. "Then you rest. Then we scan." They turned to the elevator together. The manager raised his hand and kept it up long enough for it to be a wave. He looked at the camera dome, then at the log, and seemed satisfied that objects behaved. At the doors, Evelyn pressed the button and let Lena step in first. Lemon and Mop met them. She pressed the wrong floor by habit, corrected it. Lena pressed the right one. The doors slid, met, and carried them. In the quiet, the phone vibrated with a short line from Ava. "Remember our line." Evelyn typed it beneath the hearing date. "The court hears paper before it hears voices." The car rose. Cables hummed. When the doors opened, their hallway received them. The folder settled against Evelyn's side and did the work paper does when it is kept straight. If you keep up with family drama stories and family revenge stories, follow Crimson Heirs so you don't miss next turn. The courtroom needed no gavel. It already knew how to hold its breath. Dark wood kept a low shine. The clock ticked without taking sides. The clerk clicked the recorder to red and squared 3 pens. Ava set the exhibit list on the rail, edges flush. Lena sat upright, one hand steady on the gentle arc of her middle. Trent tugged a tight knot under his chin and watched the air above Ava's shoulder. Evelyn placed the folder between both palms, lifted her hands, and let the pages speak for her. "Hook, clean and cold. Here, the court hears paper before it hears voices. If you came listening for a shout, you misread the room. This story prefers the rustle of files and the weight of dates. Stay with the line. The turn arrives quietly and clean edges." "Appearances," Judge Naomi Adler said. Names entered the record. Counsel for petitioner. Counsel for respondent. Evelyn May Brooks, present. The petition walked in on tall claims, manipulation, interference, alienation, photos slid across, angles without context. Trent's chin kept time with his lawyer's cadence, as if nods could build a ladder. Ava rose when called, voice measured. Your Honor, we propose to let the documents walk in order. Exhibits A through G. We will keep words short. The clerk stamped corners and passed copies. Paper found its stations, bench, tables, boxes. The room took the rhythm. Exhibit A, transcripts of texts and voicemails, dates and times in calm gray, a command softened by a pet name. A deadline wearing the word please, a refusal written 3 times. On the screen, bubbles stacked in a clean spine. Ava touched the lectern, not the page. Foundation, not flourish. Exhibit B, the lobby incident log, neat print, initials tight at the corner, camera index 0728 to 0741. A still frame, a flat hand on a counter, inches kept, line held. The manager's note, owner present, attorney on speaker, no entry permitted. Exhibit C, the Pearl deed, owner of record, legal description, notary seal. Beside it, the management agreement. Collections and disbursements clear on the first business day, agent of record, address on file. Exhibit D, rent statements. Deposits landing like fence posts down a field. Rent, Unit 3B, rent, Unit 4A, and the rest. Balances stepping upward like careful stairs. Exhibit E, shareholder papers from Cascade Logistics. A certificate in Walter's name with transfer on death to Evelyn. An investor letter. A sticky with an HR contact. Ava offered a call note. File opened for review regarding employee conduct toward a building owner and manager. Exhibit F. Photographs from the house. The embroidered cloth. A velvet box shut, open, shut. Frames along a hallway, then hands near frames, then frames where they had been. Exhibit G. The will. Title in bold. Schedule of assets. A signature that paused where his hand always paused. Cross on the documents? Adler asked. The red tie stood, prodded the edges. Was the message joking? Was the lobby a stage? Could a deed be a trick? The exhibit speaks, Adler said. Move on. Ava called one witness. Limited purpose. The manager stepped up in a fresh shirt that still smelled like bleach. He gave date and time, pointed to initials on the log, stated that he preserved 10 minutes of footage before and after. That is what happened, he finished, and stepped back. Objection. Foundation, the red tie tried. Overruled, Adler said. The log stayed where it was. Anything else? Adler asked. A letter from HR acknowledging receipt, Ava said. Admitted for limited purpose, came the ruling. Then the room shifted a degree, like a door opening in a far hallway. Adler removed her glasses and held them by one hinge. Ms. Brooks, state your full name. Evelyn May Brooks. Did you once work in this courthouse? Yes, Evelyn said, eyes lifting from the grain in the rail. Years ago. Adler set her glasses down and placed a pen on a pad. The record is what it is, she said. But people remember. I recall a file room. I recall a quiet that taught a shy intern which forms to pull and where to carry them. I recall a cup of coffee arriving on a night a juvenile docket ran long. The court remembers. We proceed. Paper rustled again. The recorder breathed, back to the work. Findings, Adler said. She stacked the exhibits in the order she would speak them, the lobby log on top, the photographs to one side. On the petition for custody and orders premised on alleged manipulation, petitioner has not shown the pattern claimed, request denied. On respondent's request for protective boundaries, granted. Petitioner is not to approach respondent or Ms. Annalena Brooks at home, at work, or at medical appointments. Communications will run through counsel. Any removal of property from residence requires written consent or a lawful writ executed by proper officers. No self-help, no movers at dawn. Petitioner will refrain from contacting respondent. Messages will pass through counsel. The court notes the deed and management records align with bank deposits past 24 months. Title issues, if any, belong in a different docket. On costs, petitioner shall bear respondent's fees for the emergency filings and hearing. On decorum, sides will keep distance. If there is a medical appointment, petitioner waits off-site unless invited. Violations return here quickly. So ordered. No gavel fell. And the words landed and lay flat. Trent's chair gave a sound not made by wood when he pushed back. Color rose and fell at his throat. The red tie stuffed papers into a case that did not want them yet. He found the latch on the second try. Ava closed the binder and slid it toward Evelyn. Evelyn placed the velvet box into her bag and set the zipper pull facing the back. Lena capped her pen. The click sounded bigger than it was. The clerk read the next case. A bailiff opened the side door. Motion returned to the room. In the hallway, they took a metal bench. The vending machine hummed and shook once, as if clearing its throat. Lena unscrewed a bottle and set it in Evelyn's hand. "Drink," she said, small as a thread. Ava forwarded the minute order to their phones. "We'll copy and serve," she said. "Keep the log, keep the footage, keep the list." They sat long enough to watch 3 other matters spill in and out. A boy balanced a skateboard on a toe and never dropped it. A deputy found the sweet spot where a chair leans and does not tip. "Next?" Lena asked. "Scan," Evelyn said. "Then lunch." Outside, light found a dry patch between clouds. A bus knelt for a passenger and rose again. Evelyn looked at the front of the building and found an old lintel that had not changed. Her phone buzzed. Certified copy at 3. HR acknowledged the order. The manager saved the reel. The city moved past without pausing, which is what cities do. They walked to the corner. Lena's body set the pace and cars noticed. A delivery bike slid through and was gone. At the stop, Evelyn unzipped her bag and slid the minute order into a sleeve. Air pressed out under her palm. The seal caught the light. A woman in scrubs glanced over and away. A teenager counted coins twice and pocketed them. The bus arrived. They watched it and did not board. Ava checked her watch. "I'll meet you at the house," she said. "Drive, labels, order, everything squared before a shelf gets it." She looked back toward the courthouse lobby doors and then down the block. "Good work," she added. "Measure, not praise." Evelyn nodded. The ground felt even again. Lena touched the corner of a white envelope in her bag and took her hand away. She linked her arms and watched the street, not the screen. They turned toward the river. The water moved at last week's speed. A barge pushed a quiet hill of weather with its bow. The wake reached the pilings and arranged itself. She thought of the bulletin board at the clinic. Utility grants, rent clinics, free legal nights. She thought of a table with plain sheets, a pot of pens, a list of hours, a door that stayed open on Sundays. Paper doing first work without anyone raising a voice. She placed the thought where drafts would not take it. Back home, the rug lay flat from earlier care. The manila folder kept its corner. Evelyn placed the order on top and aligned the edges. Lena ran water and filled 2 glasses. She held one for a long moment before drinking. Ava arrived with a thumb drive and labels. They worked like people building shelves. Scan. Name. Date. 3 copies to 3 homes. File. Counsel. Offsite. The printer breathed and cooled and breathed again. "Voice tag for later," Ava said with a small smile while a page warmed. Crimson Heirs, where family drama stories meet the quiet, lawful turns of family revenge stories. It landed light, then was gone. They finished as the window turned to gold. Ava left with the twin file. Lena slept an hour on the couch, blanket folded once across her knees. Evelyn watered the violets and turned each pot a quarter. In the mail stack, an envelope in sober blue waited. A foundation's name lined the corner. Evelyn opened it with a butter knife, an invitation to a small ceremony for donors who helped reopen a shelter after a flood. She placed it on top of the pile, then under the order, then on top again. The clock took the hour. A car's shadow moved along the ceiling and disappeared. The refrigerator clicked. Deep in the wall, a pipe ticked and stopped. She wrote on a narrow pad, "Scan receipts. Call HR for the file number. Ask the manager for a copy of the badge swipe report. Pick up certified copy at 3. Bring cookies to the desk on Sunday." She underlined the last line. Dusk landed on the block. Porch lights found their switches. A dog across the street offered 2 barks and rested. Evelyn closed the folder. She did not hide it or hold it while she slept. She let it rest where it belonged, spine square to the table's seam. Tomorrow would be smaller and then larger. Breakfast first, a bus, a key, a door, perhaps a room with other women. Violet leaves turned toward the window, a stack of blank forms and a pen that never ran dry. A place to begin again with names on lines. The house breathed like a careful person. Rain tried and gave up. The kettle lifted a small sound and waited. The courtroom had needed no gavel. This room didn't either. The day folded itself and held. Ready for part 8. Sunday came thin and bright. In the backyard, sprinklers stitched arcs. Evelyn turned each African violet a quarter toward the window. On the patio, small shoes pattered. Serenity chased a butterfly that would not agree to land. Lena set the table under the maple. She squared the embroidered cloth and leveled forks with a thumb. Her phone lay face down. Evelyn adjusted Walter's chair a finger's width and left it there. A soft knock. The mail carrier's tread was unhurried. A blue envelope slid onto the mat. Evelyn opened the envelope with the butter knife. The card read, "Home Dignity," an invitation to the opening of House 3, a place for older women untangling the knots of someone else's money. Italics near the bottom said, "Because doors matter." As she set the card on the manila folder, then under the minute order, then on top again. Lena rinsed 2 glasses and dried them. Evelyn penciled the date and start time on the card's margin. The doorbell again, then the creak of the gate. Judge Naomi Adler stood on the step in a linen jacket. Beside her, a woman with silver hair carried a tin. "We were in the neighborhood," Adler said. "A brief hello." Evelyn opened the screen door. Shoes wiped. Voices softened to fit a house. The tin held lemon cookies. Adler glanced at the violets and offered a handshake that did not mistake strength for volume. "A note from the Retired Judges Association," she said, handing a card. "A quiet honor for steady hands." "They have been bored lately," Evelyn said. "Paper first, then voices," Adler said, smiling at the echo. Her companion laughed. Houses keep laughter better than hallways. Serenity attempted a curtsy that was half hop, half bow. Adler lifted 2 fingers in salute and let the door close carefully behind her. Lunch assembled without a speech. Bread found plates, tomatoes shined. Lena poured water. Evelyn wrote a short list for Monday and handed it over. Lena added 2 items, scan receipts, call volunteers, and tacked the list to the fridge with a pear magnet. When the dishes were done, Evelyn opened a drawer that stuck in the last inch. A manila envelope waited in Walter's hand. Inside, the first receipt from the Pearl Building and a note. "Use this to protect Teach." She slid both into a clear sleeve with the foundation card and trimmed the edges so they sat flush. The sleeve went into the folder, topmost. Serenity climbed into Evelyn's lap with a book so thin it was mostly staples. Her fingers found the edge of the embroidered cloth and worried one thread, then smoothed it back. Lena set a glass of water within reach without speaking. Mid-afternoon pushed the patio into shade. Evelyn printed 3 copies of the invitation and tucked one for the building manager, one for Ava, one for the clinic board. She added to the list, "Cookies for Sunday desk." The tin from Adler sat on the counter, lid half open. The butterfly returned, undecided as ever. Serenity placed the horse on the step where stone kept a little cold. Evelyn turned the violets again, a quarter toward light and patience. The day invited a soft sentence. If you love the quieter turns of family drama stories, where justice keeps step with paperwork, and the honest hum of family revenge stories that require no shouting, follow Crimson Heirs for more doors opening at the right time. By late afternoon, the light leaned long and thin. Evelyn set the minute order under the foundation card so the raised seal would train the new corner flat. She wrote to Ava, "House 3 opening. Bring someone who enjoys labeling boxes." She wrote to the manager, "Cookies Sunday, plus the HR file number if it arrives." She stepped onto the porch with a broom and persuaded a small tide of leaves back to the yard they came from. Evening brought its measured kindness. The kettle found its note. A pan said yes to onions and later to garlic. Lena pulled sheets from the dryer and folded them into rectangles an aunt would praise. Serenity fell asleep on the couch with one hand cupped as if holding a moth. At the table, Evelyn placed the foundation card atop the folder and rotated the violets one last time. A page lifted and settled. She looked at the doorway Walter had painted and the rug he said could survive anything. "Tomorrow," she said to no one. "Forms and tea." The clock agreed and moved once. The house did not perform happiness. It held it still. Some fights earn their keep not by noise, but by what they leave standing. Names on deeds, doors unlocked for those who come after, and a clean place on a table where paper can begin. Morning held its breath and then let it go. House 3 wore a new ribbon along the porch rail, pale as the sky. A folding table waited with forms, a tin of lemon cookies, and pens that clicked softly. Evelyn turned each African violet a quarter toward the door and wiped one drop from a saucer with her sleeve. Lena taped a small sign to the post. "Check-in." She squared the letters with her thumbnail, then laid out clipboards in 2 rows. Serenity lined smooth stones on the top step, saving one white pebble at the end. "For the first guest," she said, and returned to trading shadows with a butterfly that would not land. A community reporter raised a camera, adjusted focus, then lowered the strap. The ribbon stirred, but did not lift. Inside, Evelyn stacked forms by need. Intake, housing, safety, referrals. She slid clear sleeves into a bin and labeled them in pencil, square. A kettle clicked. It waited. She placed last month's minute order beneath the sign-in sheet so the seal left a mild ridge in the paper. Lena arrived with 3 volunteers. She wrote their names on a whiteboard under headings: front table, scanning, tea, play corner. She moved one person with a touch on the elbow, another with a nod. The copier breathed. The first guest paused at the gate. Silver hair, a small purse held close, the stance of someone used to carrying weight evenly. Her gaze landed on the words under the logo, "Because doors matter." She pressed the latch and stepped inside. The stone Serenity had saved waited at the step's edge, bright as an idea. "Welcome," Evelyn said, opening the door just wide enough. She did not touch the woman's arm. She led her toward the front table with a palm, the way one points toward a shoreline. "We'll start here." She set a clipboard down, turned it so the boxes faced the guest, and slid a pen across. A sponsor in a blazer approached. "May we take a photo for the story?" he asked, lifting his phone. Lena stepped sideways until the camera saw only cookies and a ribbon tail. "No photos past this line," she said, finger on the sign. "Tea?" Steam rose from paper cups. Serenity dropped the white stone into a dish beside the pens and patted it once, satisfied. Evelyn tapped the top box. "Name," she said, "and a number where we can reach you." The pen moved. Boxes filled. Keys clinked. The clipboard returned with the slow certainty of a page that knows where it belongs. "You'll have a room today," Lena told the volunteers. "Clean sheets, fresh towel, a door that locks from inside." Chairs rolled, a vacuum-crossed carpet, a window leaned open. The reporter lifted the camera again, then chose a notebook and wrote a line instead. "If you love the quiet turns of family drama stories, where justice keeps step with paperwork, and the honest hum of family revenge stories that never need a shout, follow Crimson Heirs for more doors opening at the right time." Across the street, a figure paused by a utility pole, then turned away. Inside, a new intake form arrived, the name written in purple ink, loops high and deliberate. Evelyn's eye stopped a breath at the handwriting before moving on. She filed the page, lifted the next clipboard, and set another pen within reach. The bell by the door twitched and settled. The ribbon held. Afternoon slipped forward. Somewhere beyond the map, another story tested its courage and found a hand for the bell. Night settled over House 3. Folding chairs stood stacked along the wall. The mourning ribbon lay coiled in a glass bowl, pale with one frayed edge. The check-in table kept 2 pens and a line of white stones Serenity had arranged. Evelyn closed the last file, clicked one lamp off, and paused at the door. Her phone buzzed. Unknown. She let it pass to voicemail. When she turned the latch, an envelope slid under the gap and stopped against her shoe. No name. She lifted it by one corner and laid it on the table, aligning its edge with the grain. Inside, a clipped article about a developer stitching together half the block around the Pearl building. Someone had underlined cash for keys and circled a date for a community update. A sticky rode the clipping. Talk to tenants on 4th. Wed. A small stair map marked the exit near Lena's old door. Evelyn slid the article under last month's minute order so the seal would press the paper flat. She tapped a pencil twice, then rested it. She called Ava and left a message. Pack it on your desk before 9. The figure who had watched from across the street returned, cap low. The bell didn't ring. A clipboard appeared on the table instead, set there by a careful hand, name in purple ink, Violet K. Lena poured tea and set the cup on a napkin. Serenity nudged a saved stone into the dish beside the pens and went back to her shadows. Email chimed. HR acknowledged a fact-finding interview regarding Trent and attached the conduct policy. Evelyn printed a timeline. Lobby log, footage, notice, minute order, HR note. She labeled the folder HR, Cascade, and set it near the door where morning remembers. Close to closing, a man in a narrow suit paused at the threshold. Shined shoes. A card already out. We're partnering on revitalization, he said. Soft landings, optional buyouts for elders. May we take a photo? Evelyn rotated the sign. No photos beyond this line. She pointed him to a lobby chair facing the exit and offered a generic email on a blank card. Legal only, she said. He tried again. We admire your mission, he said. Happy to coordinate a smooth transition for 4 floors. Cash is gentle. Time is expensive. She lifted the cookie tin's lid and let it fall back once. Doors first, paper first, she said, and did not invite him deeper. Council will respond. Lights clicked down in sequence. From outside, a 2-beat knock touched the glass and retreated. No one stood at the rail. On the mat, a black USB lay where a square of sun had been at noon. At the desk, she slid the drive into an old laptop off the network. The root held 2 folders. One matched what she already kept, morning, lobby footage. The other dated months earlier. The clip opened to a night frame, a side door at the Pearl building, a figure in a puffy jacket, another in a security polo. A hand passed. Keys glinted. The timestamp gave a clean minute. Evelyn paused the frame and let the cursor hover. She wrote 3 lines on the pad. Identify jacket. Request keylog and badge swipes. Notify tenants on 4th. She pulled a fresh envelope addressed to Ava and the building manager and slid a copy of the clip list inside. She left the flap open for the morning. She locked the door and checked it twice. The city's hum folded tight along the street. Pearl lights glanced off the window. Evelyn stacked the files, set the USB atop the cardboard folder, and placed a stone on the drive so it wouldn't wander. If the turn you're waiting for walks on paper, quiet as title deeds, steady as orders, and if you live for the slow burn of family drama stories and the honest hum of family revenge stories that never need a shout, follow Crimson Heirs. The next door is marked Cash for Keys. She turned the lamp off. Outside, a bus sighed. Inside, the ribbon in the glass bowl unwound a fraction and stilled. House 3 listened to its hinges. Somewhere, keys decided what to tell next.